Good morning. I've just realised I've probably been talking for 10 minutes and nobody has probably heard me. Has it been a blank screen for 10 minutes? I have absolutely no idea. Good morning. I realise I haven't added myself to the stage. You probably haven't heard anything that I've been saying for the last 10 minutes. What an absolute faux pas. Let's start again, shall we? I literally been talking for 10 minutes. So if you've just been watching a blank screen for 10 minutes, you're like, what the hell is happening here? Good morning. Today, I'm talking about habits. I am talking about why habits won't prevent burnout and what actually will. And I started by saying that I keep seeing the same question, right? What habits prevent burnout? I'm being asked it by journalists, I'm being asked it on podcasts, I'm being asked it in my newsfeed every day, I'm being asked it all over the place. And I've been sitting with like why this question bothers me so much. And it's not because it's a bad question, but I do think it's the wrong question if we are thinking about habits. Good morning. If you are joining me live, let me know that you are there. Say hi, let me know where you're from. If you've been staring at a blank screen for 10 minutes, apologies. I just clicked. I said everything keeps jumping around my screen this morning. This is the first time that I've used StreamYard for a really, really long time. I've been directly on YouTube for weeks. I listened to what I was asked. I was asked if I would come onto LinkedIn as well. So I'm back on a streaming platform. This morning it's clearly not worked properly. So again, if you have been staring at a blank screen for probably nearly 15 minutes now, I do apologise. Breakfast at my Monday morning weekly live. I come to you straight after my morning yoga practice. We talk about burnout. Today we're talking about why habits won't solve burnout. We're going to talk about what will. So as I said, I think that I've been sitting with, right, why this question bothers me so much about what's the number one habit, what are the habits that are going to stop burnout. As I don't think it's a bad question. I get that people want to be able to understand what we can do to prevent burnout. And my biggest passion is still what we can do to prevent burnout, to stop it in its tracks, to recover from it with ease. I'm here for all of that. So I understand why people are asking about habits. I absolutely do. But I don't think it's the right question. And I want to talk about that with you all this morning. So, but I want to start, I suppose, by acknowledging that we've got habits being talked about everywhere, right? We've got habit stacking. Everybody's talking about habit stacking. We've got people hacking this and hacking that and hacking the other. We're talking about habits like morning routines, evening routines, daytime routines, lunchtime routines. We're talking about sleep routines. We're talking about boundaries. We're talking about morning routines and journaling and meditating and yoga and all of these different routines, different habits that we think that we need to be putting in place in order to prevent burnout. And I get, right, and I totally get why this is like so seductive. And it's seductive because it's actionable. And so we feel like we are in control, right? But ultimately, habits are behaviors. But when we're talking about burnout, they're the wrong type of behavior and they locate the problem in the wrong place. And the reason they put the problem in the wrong place is because when we talk about habits with burnout, we put all of the responsibility, all of the onus, all of the accountability onto the individual, right? If you just had better habits, if you just changed your behaviors, if you just thought differently or did things differently, or you changed your morning routine, changed your evening routine, changed your nighttime routine, if you had better habits, then you would stop burnout. That's ultimately what we're talking about when we get to that point. Now, I do think that burnout is an individual and a systemic responsibility. I think we all have a responsibility when it comes to burnout. But if we continue to only talk about habits, we continue to place all of the responsibility in the wrong place. And that's on all of it being on the individual. And particularly as coaches, if you're watching this as a coach, you're continually talking to your clients about what habits they can change, what they can be doing differently. Let's change a habit, let's change a behavior, let's change another habit, let's change a behavior. If that becomes your sole focus, you're focusing on the wrong thing, because the problem is in the equation. So in a moment, I'm going to talk to you about the burnout equation, tell you why the burnout equation is what it is that we need to be focusing on. If you don't know me, good morning. My name is Kelly Swingler. I'm the burnoutologist. I have coached over 700 leaders through burnout over the last 13 years, created the Burnout Academy, created Burnoutology, I've created the burnout equation. And as I said, today I want to talk to you about why the habit narrative is not just, it's just not enough. And actually, in a lot of cases, it can be quite harmful. Now, let me give you some examples to that story. Also, shout out before we go. This morning is Monday the 1st of June. So it's my mum's birthday. We've had messages from a lovely family dinner yesterday. But also, if you're watching, sometimes my mum sees stuff pop up on her feed. Hopefully, she's not watching it. So we have already been messaging and chatting and doing all of that this morning. But happy birthday to my mum. I hope she's having a lovely day. We'll be seeing her later. Right, let's talk about habits. So my first burnout made me really, really seriously ill. I had 7 months of debilitating pain. I ended up having to have 2 operations in 48 hours for 2 serious health conditions. And 2 years later, I reached burnout again. Now, if we think about it from a habit perspective, I did have a long commute every day, right? When it was kind of burnout number one, I had a long commute. I had a big job. I had lots of responsibility. I was also somebody who would say, like, I strived and thrived under pressure, right? But I was brilliant at stress. I was brilliant at chaos. I was brilliant at fixing stuff. I was brilliant at getting stuff done. I was a high performer. I was a high achiever. And I had a lot of habits. Not all of them good, but I had habits. My morning, every single morning, I would do the same thing every day. I would get up at the same time every day. I would be straight on my yoga mat. I would be in the shower at the same time every morning. I'd be doing my hair and makeup at the same time every morning. I'd be leaving the house at the same time every morning, depending on traffic. I tried to get to the station at the same time every morning. I was on the same train. I took the same route, same train, same thing. We're trying to get to the office at the same time every day. Train times and traffic allowing. But I had the habits. I had the same evening habits. I had a lot of weekend habits. I was doing a lot of cycling. I was doing a lot of yoga. I had habits. In between burnout 1 and burnout 2, I also had a lot of habits. Now, again, I've just said to you, I was, and still am really, a high performer. I was somebody who thrived under pressure. I had these 2 operations in 48 hours after 7 months of debilitating pain. I know not everybody has the same severe burnout that I did. I know that not everybody ends up with chronic lifelong health conditions. I know that lots and lots of those sorts of things aren't happening. But I had habits. Now, I had been told, I hadn't realised, and again, for many of us, we don't do this, right? We don't really know that what we've been through is burnout until we've kind of come through the other side of it. So I had these 2 consultants say to me, I think you're at burnout. I remember telling them both that I had no idea what they were talking about, because people like me, I definitely was not going to be at the point of burnout. But I think when I'd come to accept that this is what had happened, I began to kind of study and learn. I wanted to understand what this thing called burnout was. I wanted to understand stress a bit more. The very first kind of, I suppose, additional qualification that I did, in addition to everything that I'd already had, so I already had my psychology degree, was already an exec coach. I had kind of qualifications in exec coaching and HR and organizational design and training and facilitation. I'd done some stuff around kind of emotional intelligence, all of those kind of bits, but I wanted to understand a bit more about stress as a whole. And the first additional qualification that I did was in hypnotherapy. It was kind of a combined hypnotherapy, psychotherapy. We covered a bit of neuroscience. That's where I suppose my interest in psychotherapy and neuroscience came from. We covered a lot around stress. And I then began to kind of look at, I suppose, habits that we would do to improve our self-care, right? And again, we talk about habit stacking. We talk about all this kind of stuff, right? And I was, I suppose, doing even more habits in my quest to stop me getting to burnout again, reduce my stress levels, by this time, I'd then kind of left corporate. I'd started my award-winning people and change consultancy. I was growing a team. I was doing lots and lots of stuff and coaching execs. So I suppose on paper again, life looked brilliant, like it had done in the first place. And my habits were again around yoga, meditation, journaling, gratitude practice, making sure I was walking the dog, making sure I was drinking, my 2 litres of water every day, making sure I was getting enough fruit, getting enough veg, getting enough movement, going to sleep at the same time, doing kind of Reiki before I went to bed at night, doing this, doing that, doing the other. I'm sure I had, and I don't joke when I say this, between kind of 15 and 20 habits a day that I was doing to keep my stress levels down, to keep me calm, to keep me chilled, to stop me getting to burnout again. And I ended up in my second burnout, and this time it nearly killed me. And I'm not joking when I say that. My first burnout made me really seriously ill. 7 months of debilitating pain, but no day off, which again I very proudly spoke about for years in terms of, well, I reached burnout, so did take a day off. Again, I understand the neuroscience behind that now, why I kept on pushing. But I ended up having 2 operations in 48 hours. 2 consultants spoke to me about this thing called burnout. I remember literally screwing my face up at both of them, like, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know me, this is, not doesn't happen to me. I already had habits. Some good, some bad. Between burnout 1 and burnout 2, I increased even more habits. And this time I was running my own business, right? So I needed to ensure that I was, doing, growing the business, looking after myself, doing the self-care, taking care of my sons, doing everything I needed to do. So I increased even more good habits and ended up in a second period of burnout that almost killed me. And I have lived for 13 years with the chronic health conditions as a result of burnout 1 and burnout 2. This is why I am so passionate about the work that I do. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about the work that I do. This is why I have been doing the doc for 13 years. It's why I'm continuing to study. It's why I'm doing my PhD. It's why I continue to talk and coach and learn and understand. It's why I'm looking at research. I'm reading books. A lot of it is, again, coming through my clients. I've coached over 700 leaders through this over 13 years. Like over 11,000 coaching hours. I've written the books. I've, as I said, written kind of about burnoutology, the burnout equation. I've spoken on stages to tens of thousands of people about this. And I keep hearing the same thing, like I thought what I was doing was okay. Got a question that's come into the comments. Let's do that before we go into the burnout equation. My screen's jumping all over the place. Again, apologies, everybody. This is not an amazing live, is it? I wasn't on stage for the first 15 minutes as I was talking away very happily. What's Graham saying here? Graham's saying most people chasing burnout prevention are solving the wrong problem. What if the real question isn't how to have less stress and rather how to make sure your stress is pointing somewhere worth going? I think that's a really great point, Graham. And again, let's make this point here. I am not against stress at all. Now, we might not necessarily call it stress in the grand scheme of things. I think there is a difference between stress and like bad, chronic, toxic stress. We might not necessarily think about it as stress, right? But drive, passion, adrenaline, motivation, and the stuff that gets us in the morning, right? If we didn't have any stress at all, we wouldn't be getting out of bed every morning. It's just like, what's the point? If we didn't have any stress at all, we wouldn't be achieving goals. We wouldn't be motivated to do anything. We wouldn't have world-class athletes, right? We wouldn't have the drive, the motivation, the passion, the reason to get us moving in the way that we want to be doing. We wouldn't be doing any of that. So not all stress is bad. We need stress to motivate us, to keep us going, to push us, to drive us. But to Graham's point there, yes, if we understand, right, what is, make sure our stress is kind of pointing us in the right direction, right, and that's towards the goal. Again, I have talked about stress quite a lot this morning, but I also want us to understand that burnout is so much more than stress. And which is why, again, when we think about the habits that we can do, we can create habits that can reduce our stress levels. We can create habits that allow us to be happier, healthier humans. We can create habits that allow us to be happier, healthier, high-performing humans. But those habits will not be enough to stop us getting to the point of burnout. And as I mentioned in the introduction, I believe that lies in the burnout equation. So let's come on to, shall we, onto the burnout equation. I usually do this for half an hour, but again, I was talking to an empty screen for about 15 minutes this morning without even realising that I wasn't live. If some of you have been watching this and I've repeated the same stuff over again, I do apologise. But let's talk about this. So the burnout equation, I want us to frame this. This is how really I work with burnout. This is how I work with coaches. This is what I'm training coaches and leaders in. And what I want to have, I suppose, the different frame that I want us to look at when we understand burnout is this. This is the burnout equation. Toxicity minus sense of self equals burnout. Right? Toxicity minus sense of self equals burnout. Again, I've seen this in over 700 clients that I have coached through it. I've seen it in conversations that I've had with people when I've come off stage. I've seen it in conversations that I've had with people, in inquiries. I've seen it in the training that I've done with coaches. I've trained coaches from 15 different countries. This is what I see every time that burnout is in the room, right? Toxicity minus sense of self equals burnout. So let's kind of unpick, I suppose, each part of the equation very, very quickly, shall we? So when we talk about toxicity, although it is still reported at the moment that toxic workplaces are still the number one cause of burnout, we do not have to be employed, we do not have to be in the workplace in order to be experiencing burnout. So when I say toxicity, I'm not just talking toxic workplaces. This could be toxic workplaces, but it could also be the environment, the conditions, the ongoing pressure. It could be our own self-talk, it could be relationships, it could be people around us, it could be tasks, it could be habits. Toxicity is basically anything that depletes us. Okay, that's what I'm talking about in this with the equation. So the toxicity is anything that depletes us. The sense of self is who you know yourself to be, right? Your values, your identity, yourself, you, right? Your right to exist as you are. And burnout is what happens when the toxicity exceeds the sense of self. That's how I think about burnout. That's the burnout equation. So when we talk only about habits, right? Habits really are not addressing or answering or solving either side of that equation. They're not reducing toxicity and they're not building a robust sense of self. But they do create a performance, right, of well-being on top of conditions that are already depleting. Right, let me say that again for you. They are creating, habits create a sense of performance of well-being on top of conditions that are already in place. Again, in my latest book, I spoke a lot about kind of workplace well-being, right? Why we need to call BS on workplace well-being. So if we look at just workplaces for now in a moment, and I genuinely believe, right, coaches are the secret weapon in the fight against burnout, which I'll answer in a moment. If we think about workplaces, the majority, not every single one, but the majority of workplaces at the moment are, if we think about workplaces as a person, the majority of workplaces at the moment are like sedentary, overweight, unhealthy, stressed out, like 60-a-day smokers, fueled by booze and fatty foods, not moving, sitting in front of a TV screen all day, no real interaction with anybody else. Stress levels just continue to rise and rise and rise and rise, and negativity just continues to grow. And yet this person, if you think about that as a person, they go to a yoga class every Saturday morning and consider themselves to be healthy. That's what the majority of workplace wellbeing looks like. Because they'll sprinkle on that, give you a meditation app, they might give you a step tracker, they might say, well, we do yoga class, or we give you a gym membership, but they're not changing any of the conditions. And workplace well-being, as far as I'm concerned at the moment, is not creating well-beings. The workplace itself, the work, the relationships, the environment, the lack of purpose, the lack of clarity, the lack of leadership, the lack of anything on top of increased stress levels threats of losing the job. I had a conversation on Thursday in the Burnout Coach Collective with a lot of coaches. We were talking about sunken investment, right? Clients that some of us are working with who have been in the same organizations or within the same sector for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. And some of them are talking about the fact they've got to stay in that role for another 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 years because they're worried that if they leave there, they won't get another job, that it will seriously harm their life, it will seriously impact their income, like it's going to be the worst case for them. And they know that they also haven't got much left in the tank to continue doing what they're doing in the first place. So they're staying because the fear of leaving is even worse. Like we talked about the role of coaches within a lot of that, but that's a lot of what we're seeing. The job market at the moment, horrific. We saw UK news last week, right, about 17 to 24-year-olds out of work. I'm having conversations with people kind of over the amount of over 50s that are also out of work. The challenges in the job market at the moment, the challenges for lots and lots of people at the moment, lots of people are staying put, knowing that they are on the brink of burnout. In that instance, creating more habits is not going to be the change that we needed to change. We also can't think our way out of burnout. So if we're thinking about just change your mindset, everything will be better. It's not going to stop burnout. Now, I've skipped a little bit today. I'm conscious of time, and I need to be somewhere soon. Apologies for the issues with the live stream at the start of this. Many of you will probably just have a blank screen for minutes and minutes and minutes. But I genuinely said, the burnout equation, right, really is where I want us to think about burnout. So toxicity minus sense of self equals burnout. Habits are not going to change any of that. But also I want us to kind of understand, like our bodies understand that burnout is in the room. The body knows first, but our bodies know where burnout is present even before our brains have been able to catch up. We need to be able to understand all of that as well. So again, different habits on a nervous system, on a body that is already in a stress state, that is already in survival mode, that is maybe already kind of flinching at the point of where somebody's, just colour code your diary, just go for a walk more, just do this, just do that, just, change your sleep. And a lot of the time, again, isn't it, when we don't fully understand burnout and we're talking about habits, we're like, just do this one thing, just change your sleep, just go for a walk every day. And again, the body's physically like flinching and tensing at the thought of that, because where are you supposed to find the time when you're in that level of survival mode and the brain is pushing us, right? The brain is going into that level of survival mode. The brain keeps us going because the only way we think about it, the only way that our body would be under that much stress and pressure is if we were kind of running for our lives, literally like fighting for survival. Our brain doesn't compute at that point. Now would be a really great time for you to stop and rest. The brain is feeding all of the chemicals. Again, I've just recorded this week's YouTube video, which is about these neurochemicals that are linked to burnout. You'll find that on my channel. But all of these chemicals are doing what our body is designed to do, right? They're designed to keep us going, to keep us moving. It's not like, oh, you're under this amount of stress and pressure, so now would be a really great time for you to rest. How is that possible? If you were being chased by wild animals, now is not the right time for you to stop, do a bit of sunbathing, enjoy a nice cuppa and just chill out for a bit. Because, of course, if you were to do that, you're not going to survive this tranche of wild animals, are you? You've got to keep running. You might hide at one point, but you've got to, you're looking for safety, you're on red alert, you're trying to make sure of that. That's what your brain and body is doing to you. And telling clients, just create a new habit, just change your mindset, is not going to work properly. We've got to get better. This is why I'm going to challenge. I want all coaching to be burnout informed coaching. Because as coaches, I genuinely believe we are the secret weapon. Coaches are the secret weapon in the fight against burnout. Because if we think about it, coaches are being called in more and more and more when burnout is coming. Right, when burnout is in the room. If leaders, organizations, HR teams, managers, whoever, are getting worried about individuals that burn out. Now, coaching in some cases is still being seen as a bit of a stick to beat people with. But coaches have a unique position. Coaches have the opportunity to sit with clients one-to-one, hold that space for them. If coaches are burnout informed and know the signs of burnout, know what to do, they're not just going straight into habit changing, goal setting, performance, any of that sort of stuff. Now, I appreciate that's really what coaching is, right? It's about performance, it's about goal setting, it's about moving people forwards. But we've got to get to a point where, as coaches, we understand that we need to be creating safety for our clients in the first place. They've got to be able to feel safe enough in their body to begin to calm that nervous system, to stop some of those neurochemicals flowing at the rate that they're flowing, to move people out of that state of survival, to allow people to know what it feels like to begin to slow down, so that as they slow down more, then they can start to make better decisions, then they can start to change some habits, then they can start to move towards goals, then they can start to make some changes. But a lot of coaching at the minute is missing that first stage that needs to happen. We're going straight into goal setting and we're not allowing that reset. We're not allowing the safety. We're not allowing the space. We're not allowing the client to really kind of understand what their state is and what it is that needs to change. So if we come straight onto just do more yoga, just take a morning walk, just change your sleep, just do more journaling, just color code your diary, just, all of that stuff is adding to the confusion. In fact, it's adding fuel to the fire when it comes to burnout. It's creating more stress, more pressure. It's not allowing a state of safety to occur. It's not allowing a state of calm. It's not allowing the client to be in the present, in the now. They're still literally fighting for survival. This is what I'm going to continue to fight for: burnout informed coaching. I think all coaching, particularly as we are seeing the rise in the number of burnout, we cannot continue to assume that coaching is like coaching as it has always been is enough to move people forward. Coaching has to be burnout informed, because clients have changed, the world of work has changed, the amount of stress and pressure that people are living with has changed. The number of burnout, number of people at, near, or coming through the other side of burnout is rising rapidly. We need coaches that understand that, and not coaches that can just guess what that looks like, but coaches that genuinely know and understand burnout. Not just, I've read the WHO definition, World Health Organization definition, I've looked at the 12 stages and therefore I know what needs to change, and therefore it's about creating more habits. It's not about more habits, not initially. And burnout informed coaching doesn't mean that you have to completely change all of your coaching. If you're a great coach, you will already have great tools that work brilliantly for your clients, but you're also probably noticing that a lot of those tools are not landing in the same way when it comes to your clients. We need safety. We've got to start with state and safety and self before we move into strategy, right? State, safety, self before strategy. And habit changing and mindset changing and goals and growth and all of that stuff, that starts with strategy. That's not where we want to be starting. Right, I am going to leave you there. If you would like to know what kind of burnout coach you are, I will post somewhere around these comments. I will post a link to it's a quiz, but 4 different types of burnout coach. I'll post that below. If you would like, email is that I email my subscribers 5 times a week, Monday to Friday. You might be thinking 5 emails a week is too much. There's burnout insight, there's understanding that will hopefully allow you to become a better coach with this. Head to kellyswinker.com, scroll down to the bottom, you can sign up for my daily insights. You get an email, daily burnout insights, Monday to Friday there. And if you've liked this, if you'd enjoyed this, if you've got questions, I am with you every single Monday, 8 a.m. Burnout breakfast, Mondays at 8. I don't know what you need to. If you're watching me on YouTube, give it a subscribe, give it a like. You'll get notified when I go live next week. Still have no idea what's happening with LinkedIn and these lives. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not. Maybe look out for the invite. I'll get next Monday set up. So I have run over this morning, but mainly because, as I said, I hadn't added myself to the stage and I was talking to myself probably for the first 15 minutes. So again, apologies for the tech issues. We roll with it, we go with it. I'm Kelly Swingbert, the Burnoutologist. I'll be back with you next Monday at 8 a.m. for the next Burnout Breakfast. Go have an amazing week. I wish you all a day free from tech issues and whatever else that you need to do. But go have an amazing Monday. Mum, again, if you're seeing any of this, happy birthday. I will see you and speak to you again soon. Go enjoy your day. Have an amazing Monday, everybody. I'll be back with you next week. Take care for now. Bye.